Part 1, The Republic Dies. Rome was bleeding. For nearly a century, Romans had killed Romans. Generals marched against their own cities. Senators plotted murders. Armies no longer fought for the Republic, they fought for ambitious men hungry for power. Julius Caesar had crossed the Rubicon. Pompey had fallen. Caesar himself had been stabbed 23 times beneath the statue of Pompey, by men who claimed they were saving freedom. But freedom never returned. Instead, Rome descended into something far worse. On the Ides of March, 44 BC, the greatest man in Rome collapsed beneath a storm of daggers. Blood covered the marble floor of the Senate House. The conspirators expected applause. Instead, the city froze. Some citizens celebrated. Others cried openly in the streets. Most simply waited. Because everyone understood one terrifying truth. Someone else would take Caesar's place. That man was not yet famous. He was only 19 years old. His name was Gaius Octavius. History would remember him as Augustus. But before becoming Rome's greatest emperor, he had to survive. At the time of Caesar's assassination, Octavian was studying military strategy in Illyria. The news reached him like lightning. His adopted father was dead. The Republic was collapsing. Friends begged him not to return. Rome had become the most dangerous city on earth. Every powerful family possessed private armies. Assassination had become politics. Trust had become impossible. Yet Octavian sailed home. Many laughed when they first saw him. Thin. Young. Quiet. Too sickly to command soldiers. Too inexperienced to challenge seasoned generals. Mark Antony dismissed him as a child. The Senate believed they could manipulate him. Even Caesar's old veterans doubted him. Nobody imagined this young man would eventually rule more territory than Alexander the Great. The moment Octavian entered Rome, Caesar's will was opened. Everything changed. The document stunned everyone. Caesar had legally adopted Octavian as his son. Not only that. He named him principal heir. 3/4 of Caesar's immense fortune now belonged to this 19-year-old. More importantly, his name became Caesar. In ancient Rome, names carried enormous power. Suddenly, Octavian wasn't simply another noble. He represented Caesar himself. Thousands of veterans who had fought beside Julius Caesar now faced a difficult choice. Would they follow Mark Antony? Or Caesar's adopted son? Antony believed the answer obvious. He already controlled the government. He possessed experienced legions. He had political allies. Octavian possessed almost nothing. Except intelligence. He never challenged stronger opponents directly. Instead, he made them underestimate him. He smiled. He listened. He appeared weak. Behind closed doors, however, he quietly bought loyalty. He used Caesar's inheritance to pay veterans. He promised stability. Justice. Peace. Soon. The boy everyone mocked commanded an army of his own. The Senate suddenly became interested. Perhaps Octavian could be useful against Antony. Perhaps Antony could be weakened. Rome's politicians believed they controlled both men. They were mistaken. Both would eventually destroy the republic they claimed to protect. The streets became increasingly violent. Political speeches ended in riots. Murders occurred openly. No law remained stronger than soldiers. Every Roman citizen sensed that another civil war was approaching. No one knew how terrible it would become. Far to the east, Caesar's assassins Brutus and Cassius gathered enormous armies. They believed themselves defenders of liberty. In reality, they had ignited the greatest struggle Rome had ever witnessed. 3 different factions. Three massive armies. One exhausted republic. And somewhere in the middle stood a quiet young man nobody feared. Yet history often hides its greatest revolutions inside ordinary appearances. Octavian understood something his enemies never did. Winning Rome would not simply require defeating armies. It would require defeating fear itself. Because after generations of bloodshed, Romans no longer dreamed of freedom. They dreamed of peace. And the man who could promise peace would inherit the world. Part 2, The War That Decided Rome. The Republic no longer existed in anything but name. The Senate still gathered. Magistrates still wore their traditional robes. Old speeches still praised liberty and the ancient constitution. But everyone understood the truth. Power now belonged to whoever commanded the strongest armies. For Octavian, the next few years would determine whether he lived or died. Across the eastern provinces, the assassins of Julius Caesar were preparing for war. 4. Brutus and Cassius had escaped Italy before Antony could destroy them. Far from Rome, they controlled wealthy provinces. They collected taxes, recruited soldiers, captured fleets. Within 2 years, they commanded nearly 20 legions. Many Romans believed they were fighting to restore freedom. Others believed they had murdered the only man capable of saving Rome. Neither side could compromise. Only one army would return victorious. Before facing the assassins, Octavian made an unexpected decision. He joined forces with the very man he had once opposed. Mark Antony. The alliance shocked Rome. Enemies became partners overnight. Together with the wealthy politician Lepidus, they formed what became known as the Second Triumvirate. Unlike earlier political alliances, this one was entirely legal. The Roman people had effectively handed 3 men absolute power. They could make laws, appoint officials, raise armies, condemn citizens without trial. The Republic's final safeguards disappeared almost overnight. But absolute power came with a terrible price. The triumvirs needed money. Armies were expensive. Civil wars consumed unimaginable wealth. Their solution was horrifying. They published long lists of enemies. Anyone whose name appeared could be killed immediately. Their property would be confiscated. Their families left with nothing. The lists became known as the proscriptions. No Roman was safe. Friends betrayed friends. Neighbors informed on neighbors. Fortunes vanished in a single afternoon. Even respected senators fled into hiding. Among the victims was one of Rome's greatest voices. Marcus Tullius Cicero. The famous orator had fiercely criticized Antony. Now Antony demanded revenge. Soldiers found Cicero while he was attempting to escape Italy. According to ancient accounts, he refused to beg. He reportedly stretched out his neck and accepted his fate with dignity. His death shocked the Roman world. If Cicero could be murdered, no one was untouchable. Once Italy had been brought under control, the triumvirs marched east. Their destination was Macedonia. Near the city of Philippi, 2 enormous Roman armies finally faced each other. It was a strange war. Romans fighting Romans. Veterans who had once served beneath Julius Caesar now stood on opposite sides of the battlefield. Many recognized familiar faces across the lines. Former comrades. Old friends. Even relatives. Yet when the trumpets sounded, duty overcame memory. The Battle of Philippi became one of the largest civil wars in Roman history. Dust covered the plains. Thousands of shields locked together. Legions advanced beneath flying standards decorated with golden eagles. The air echoed with the sound of horns, marching feet, and shouted commands. The first clashes were chaotic. Neither side gained a decisive advantage. Brutus fought with discipline. Cassius proved an experienced commander. Antony displayed his usual aggression. Octavian was nowhere to be seen. Later stories claimed he had fallen ill before the battle. Others suggested his commanders protected him because he lacked military experience. Whatever the truth, Antony carried much of the fighting. Then fate intervened. Cassius believed his army had been defeated. Confused by dust and poor communication, he made a tragic mistake. Convinced that everything was lost, he ordered a servant to kill him. But his army had not been destroyed. The news spread through the Republican camp like poison. Confidence collapsed. Brutus suddenly found himself leading the resistance alone. Several weeks later, the armies met again. This time, Antony's forces broke through. The Republican line crumbled. Brutus watched his soldiers flee. The dream of restoring the Republic had ended. Rather than be captured, he fell upon his own sword. With Brutus dead, the last organized resistance to Caesar's heirs disappeared. The battlefield at Philippi was covered with thousands of Roman dead. No foreign enemy had inflicted this disaster. Rome had done it to itself. Victory transformed the balance of power. Antony emerged as the empire's greatest general. Octavian returned west to govern Italy. Lepidus, once an equal partner, quickly faded into the background. The alliance had already begun to crack. Because there was only room for one ruler. Antony believed military glory guaranteed his future. Octavian believed something different. He understood that armies alone could not secure lasting power. People were exhausted. Farmers wanted to return to their fields. Merchants wanted safe roads. Parents wanted sons who would come home alive. After decades of civil war, peace had become more valuable than victory. Octavian quietly began building an image unlike any Roman leader before him. He did not present himself as a conqueror. He presented himself as the man who would finally end the bloodshed. It was a powerful message. But across the Mediterranean, another story was unfolding. In Egypt, Mark Antony met a queen whose intelligence, wealth, and ambition matched his own. Her name was Cleopatra. Their partnership would soon reshape the fate of the ancient world. And eventually, it would force Octavian and Antony into one final war, a war that would decide not only who ruled Rome, but whether the Republic would disappear forever. Part 3, Cleopatra, Actium, and the Fall of Antony. The Battle of Philippi had ended one civil war. But it had not brought peace. Instead, it created two men who believed they alone deserved to rule the Roman world. One governed the West. The other dominated the East. Their collision had become inevitable. 6. Mark Antony was everything Romans expected from a great commander. He was fearless in battle. Charismatic before his soldiers. Generous after victory. He laughed loudly, drank heavily, and inspired fierce loyalty. His veterans adored him. Many believed he was the natural successor to Julius Caesar. Yet Antony possessed one weakness. He often trusted his emotions more than his judgment. That weakness would change history. While Octavian strengthened his influence in Italy, Antony traveled east. The eastern provinces were rich beyond imagination. Egypt alone possessed enormous wealth. Its grain fed millions. Its treasury overflowed with gold. And its ruler was unlike any queen Rome had ever encountered. Cleopatra VII was far more than a beautiful monarch. She was exceptionally educated. She spoke several languages fluently. She studied mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and politics. Unlike many rulers, she could speak directly with ambassadors from different kingdoms without interpreters. She understood one simple truth. Egypt could never defeat Rome by force. But perhaps it could influence Rome through its leaders. When Antony arrived in Alexandria, the meeting became legendary. The queen welcomed him with extraordinary luxury. Golden ships floated along the Nile. Perfumes filled the air. Musicians performed throughout the night. Banquets displayed wealth that few Romans had ever imagined. Antony was captivated. What began as a political alliance gradually became a deep personal relationship. Together they had children. Together they dreamed of reshaping the Eastern Mediterranean. Together they built a court that looked more like the kingdoms of Alexander the Great than the traditions of old Rome. To many Eastern subjects, this seemed perfectly natural. To many Romans, it looked like betrayal. Back in Italy, Octavian watched carefully. He rarely rushed into action. Instead, he waited. He understood something essential about politics. People could forgive military defeats. They could forgive harsh decisions. But they rarely forgave the appearance of divided loyalty. Octavian's supporters quietly spread stories throughout Rome. They claimed Antony no longer thought like a Roman. They claimed Cleopatra controlled him. They claimed he planned to move power from Rome to Alexandria. Some accusations were exaggerated. Others were based on real events. Together, they created an image that terrified the Roman public. Not only was Antony fighting against Octavian. He appeared to be fighting for a foreign queen. Then came one of the greatest propaganda victories in Roman history. According to Octavian, Antony's will revealed shocking plans. It allegedly promised vast eastern territories to Cleopatra's children. It reportedly requested burial beside Cleopatra in Egypt. Whether every detail was genuine remains debated by historians. But politically, it was devastating. Romans believed their great general had abandoned them. Octavian did something remarkably clever. He never declared war on Antony. Instead, he declared war on Cleopatra. This allowed him to present the coming conflict not as another Roman civil war, but as a patriotic struggle against a foreign monarch. It was brilliant. Citizens who were tired of civil war now believed they were defending Rome itself. The decisive confrontation came in 31 BC. Near the western coast of Greece. At a place called Actium. Hundreds of warships gathered across the blue waters. It was one of the largest naval battles of the ancient world. Octavian entrusted command of his fleet to his closest friend and most talented admiral, Marcus Agrippa. Agrippa had spent months weakening Antony's position. He captured supply routes, occupied key ports, forced Antony into an increasingly desperate situation. By the time the battle began, Antony's fleet was already struggling. The morning of the battle was calm. Thousands of sailors waited in silence. Rows of oars rested above the sea. Then, trumpets echoed across the water. The fleets advanced. Antony's ships were enormous. Many carried tall towers filled with archers and soldiers. They were floating fortresses. Octavian's ships were smaller, faster, more maneuverable. Agrippa used that advantage perfectly. His fleet avoided direct collisions. Instead, Roman captains attacked from the sides. They isolated enemy vessels, cut escape routes. Gradually, the larger ships became trapped. Smoke covered the sea. Burning vessels drifted between the battle lines. The sound of splintering wood mixed with the screams of wounded sailors. Then came the moment that decided everything. Cleopatra's squadron suddenly sailed through an opening in the fighting and headed south. Why she left remains one of history's enduring mysteries. Some believe it had been planned from the beginning. Others think she believed the battle was already lost. Antony saw her ships disappearing. For a brief moment, he faced an impossible choice. Remain with his army, or follow the woman he loved. He chose Cleopatra. Leaving much of his fleet behind, Antony sailed after her. The soldiers who remained continued fighting without their commander. Many surrendered. Others died where they stood. The Battle of Actium was over. Not because every ship had been destroyed, but because leadership had vanished. The consequences were immediate. Kingdoms that had supported Antony switched sides. Cities opened their gates to Octavian. Legions abandoned their former commander. The balance of power collapsed almost overnight. The following year, Octavian marched into Egypt. Alexandria prepared for its final defense. Antony attempted one last resistance. His remaining forces were too few. Too exhausted. Too divided. When false rumors reached him that Cleopatra had died, his hope disappeared. Rather than be captured and displayed in a Roman triumph, Antony took his own life. Soon afterward, Cleopatra also chose death rather than surrender. With their deaths, an age ended. For the first time in generations, no rival remained capable of challenging Octavian. The civil wars that had consumed Rome for decades were finally over. But the greatest challenge still lay ahead. Winning battles was one thing. Ruling the entire Roman world was something else entirely. Octavian now held more power than any Roman before him. Yet he understood a dangerous lesson from history. Julius Caesar had also become too powerful. And Julius Caesar had been assassinated. If Octavian wanted to survive, he would have to convince the Roman people that he was not a king, even while becoming something far more powerful than one. Part 4, The Man Who Invented an Empire. The death of Mark Antony and Cleopatra ended the final civil war. For the first time in nearly a century, no Roman army marched against another. No rival general gathered legions. No senator prepared another conspiracy. The Mediterranean world belonged to one man. Yet Octavian understood a truth that had destroyed every ambitious Roman before him. Winning absolute power was easy compared to keeping it. Julius Caesar had ruled Rome for only a short time before 23 blades ended his life. Octavian refused to make the same mistake. He would not become another dictator. He would become something no Roman had ever imagined. 7. In 29 BC, Octavian returned to Rome. The city erupted in celebration. Crowds filled every street. Temples overflowed with offerings. Veterans embraced one another. Children who had never known peace watched victorious legions march beneath triumphal arches. For many Romans, this was the first hopeful moment of their entire lives. They expected Octavian to crown himself king. Instead, he surprised everyone. In 27 BC, Octavian entered the Senate and announced that he was returning authority to the Roman people. It sounded unbelievable. After years of war, the man who controlled almost every legion claimed he no longer wished to rule alone. The senators reacted exactly as he had anticipated. They begged him to remain. They insisted that Rome still needed his leadership. It was political theater of the highest order. Everyone understood that Octavian held the real power. Yet by allowing the Senate to offer him authority instead of taking it openly, he avoided appearing as a tyrant. That same year, the Senate granted him a new title: Augustus. It meant, the revered one. It carried religious and moral significance. Unlike king, it did not remind Romans of the monarchy they had overthrown centuries earlier. The Republic, at least on paper, still existed. Consuls were elected. The Senate continued to meet. Laws were debated. But behind every important decision stood Augustus. Without declaring himself king, he had created something entirely new: the Roman Empire. Augustus knew that swords alone could never guarantee stability. He began rebuilding Rome from its foundations. He reorganized the army. Instead of temporary forces loyal to ambitious generals, Rome now possessed a permanent professional military. Soldiers served for fixed terms. They received regular pay. Upon retirement, many were rewarded with land or financial pensions. Their loyalty shifted from individual commanders to the Roman state itself. It was one of the most important military reforms in history. He also created the Praetorian Guard. Unlike ordinary legions stationed across distant frontiers, these elite soldiers remained near the capital. Officially, they protected the emperor. Unofficially, they became the most powerful military force inside Rome. Future emperors would discover that the Praetorian Guard could protect a ruler. Or remove one. Augustus turned his attention to the empire's economy. Years of civil war had devastated agriculture. Trade routes had become dangerous. Pirates threatened shipping. Corruption drained provincial wealth. Step by step, reforms restored order. Roads were repaired. Ports expanded. Taxes became more predictable. Merchants once again crossed the Mediterranean with confidence. Grain flowed steadily into Rome. Markets flourished. Prosperity slowly replaced fear. Construction transformed the capital. Temples damaged by war were rebuilt. New forums appeared. Aqueducts carried fresh water across the city. Monuments celebrated Roman achievements. Libraries preserved knowledge. Public buildings reflected confidence instead of chaos. Centuries later, Augustus would proudly declare, "I found Rome a city of brick. I left it a city of marble." Though partly symbolic, the statement captured an undeniable truth. Rome had changed dramatically under his rule. His reforms reached beyond politics and architecture. Augustus believed Rome's moral foundations had weakened during decades of civil war. He introduced laws encouraging marriage. Families with children received advantages. Adultery became a public crime. Luxury and excess were criticized. Ironically, even members of Augustus' own family struggled to meet the standards he demanded. His daughter Julia became involved in scandals that embarrassed the imperial household. The emperor who governed millions discovered that even he could not fully control those closest to him. While Rome prospered, Augustus never ignored the empire's frontiers. Legions secured Spain. The Alps were brought under Roman control. The Balkans became increasingly stable. In the east, diplomacy often achieved what war could not. The Parthian Empire remained Rome's greatest rival. Instead of launching another costly invasion, Augustus negotiated the return of Roman military standards lost decades earlier after the disastrous defeat of Crassus. To many Romans, it felt like revenge without bloodshed. His reputation grew even stronger. Historians later named this remarkable era the Pax Romana, the Roman peace. It lasted for roughly 2 centuries. Although wars still occurred along distant frontiers, the empire itself experienced unprecedented stability. Cities expanded. Trade connected continents. Engineering flourished. Literature reached extraordinary heights. Poets such as Virgil and Horace wrote works that would inspire generations. Roman law spread across vast territories. Millions of people benefited from the security that only a unified empire could provide. It became one of the longest periods of sustained stability in ancient history. Yet Augustus knew that even the greatest achievements could disappear in a single generation. Empires did not survive because of victories alone. They survived because someone was prepared to rule after the founder was gone. And that question, who would inherit the empire, would become the final challenge of Augustus' extraordinary life. Part 5, The Legacy of Augustus and the Birth of an Empire. Every empire is built twice. First, with swords. Then, with ideas. Augustus understood this better than anyone who had ruled Rome before him. Winning the civil wars had made him master of the Roman world. But creating a system that could survive after his death, that was his greatest achievement. As the years passed, Augustus grew older. The energetic young man who had once crossed the Mediterranean to claim Caesar's inheritance had become an aging ruler. His hair turned gray. His health weakened. He suffered recurring illnesses that had followed him since his youth. Many wondered how such a physically fragile man had managed to outlive nearly all of his rivals. Generals stronger than he had fallen. Politicians more brilliant than he had disappeared. Warriors more fearless than he had died on distant battlefields. Yet Augustus remained. Not because he was the strongest, but because he was the most patient. He rarely acted in anger. He almost never rushed important decisions. Where others sought glory, he sought stability. One challenge, however, refused to disappear. Who would rule after him? Unlike a kingdom, Rome had no clear law of succession. The empire Augustus created depended heavily on his personal authority. Several of the heirs he carefully prepared died before they could succeed him. His beloved nephew Marcellus died young. His trusted friend Agrippa passed away. Agrippa's sons, Gaius and Lucius Caesar, both died unexpectedly while still young men. Each loss forced Augustus to begin again. With every funeral, the future of the empire became more uncertain. Eventually, only one serious candidate remained. His stepson, Tiberius. Tiberius was an accomplished general. He had won important victories in Germany and along the Danube. His soldiers respected him. But unlike Augustus, he did not enjoy public life. He was reserved, quiet, often uncomfortable with politics. Even Augustus reportedly had doubts about whether Tiberius truly wanted the burden of supreme power. Yet Rome needed continuity more than perfection. In AD 4, Augustus officially adopted Tiberius as his son and heir. The transition had finally been prepared. While Augustus looked toward the future, Rome itself continued to transform. The population of the capital approached 1 million people, making it one of the largest cities on earth. Ships carrying grain from Egypt arrived constantly at the port of Ostia. Merchants from Britain, Gaul, Africa, Syria, and beyond filled the markets with goods from every corner of the empire. Latin became the language of administration across vast territories. Roman law shaped everyday life. Roads stretched for tens of thousands of miles, linking provinces that had once been isolated by mountains, forests, and deserts. A traveler could journey from the Atlantic Ocean to the Euphrates River while remaining under Roman authority. This was no longer simply a city-state. It had become a civilization. Not every campaign ended in triumph. In AD 9, disaster struck in the forests of Germania. 3 Roman legions, led by the governor Publius Quinctilius Varus, marched into unfamiliar territory. They expected little resistance. Instead, they entered a carefully prepared ambush. For days, rain turned roads into mud. Dense forests prevented Roman formations from holding together. Germanic warriors attacked from every direction. The result was catastrophic. 3 entire legions were annihilated. Their eagle standards were captured. The defeat shocked Rome. Ancient writers later claimed Augustus walked through his palace crying, "Varus, give me back my legions." Whether those exact words were spoken or not, the emotional impact was undeniable. The empire had discovered its limits. After this defeat, Rome abandoned plans to permanently conquer much of Germania beyond the Rhine. It was one of the few strategic setbacks of Augustus' reign. Despite that tragedy, the empire remained stable. Augustus had accomplished something no Roman leader before him had achieved. He created institutions stronger than any single individual. The Senate still existed. The army remained disciplined. Taxes continued to flow. Governors administered distant provinces. For the first time in Roman history, the government could continue functioning even after its founder was gone. That was the true genius of Augustus. He did not simply seize power. He built a system. In AD 14, after ruling for more than 4 decades, Augustus traveled to the town of Nola in southern Italy. There, surrounded by family and trusted companions, he realized the end was near. According to ancient tradition, he asked those around him a final question. Have I played my part well in the comedy of life? Then he added, if so, applaud as I leave the stage. Soon afterward, the first emperor of Rome died at the age of 75. News spread across the empire with astonishing speed. From Britain to Egypt. From Spain to Syria. Millions learned that the man who had ruled their world for over 40 years was gone. Rome held magnificent funeral ceremonies. The Senate declared Augustus a god, continuing a tradition that had begun with Julius Caesar. Temples were built in his honor. Statues rose across the empire. His image became a symbol of stability, peace, and Roman greatness. Tiberius succeeded him without civil war. For Romans, this peaceful transfer of power was almost miraculous. The empire had survived the death of its founder. More than 2,000 years later, the influence of Augustus still surrounds us. Many modern governments borrow ideas first organized under his administration. Professional standing armies. Long-distance road networks. State taxation systems. Public infrastructure. Urban planning. Even the month of August bears his name. His greatest victory was not Actium. It was not Egypt. It was not defeating Antony. His greatest victory was time itself. He transformed a collapsing republic, exhausted by generations of civil war, into an empire that endured in the West for nearly 5 centuries, and in the East, through the Byzantine Empire, for almost another 1,000 years. Few individuals have shaped history so profoundly. When Julius Caesar died, Rome stood on the edge of destruction. When Augustus died, Rome stood at the beginning of its greatest age. Empires rise. Empires fall. But every empire has a beginning. For Rome, that beginning was Augustus.